There's a lot going on, as you know, slow news week. But the other thing I say over and over and over and over again is that we only lose when we forget what we're fighting for. We have to always remember our goals. This is what we want, a nation that we want to build, the nation that we want to live in, the world that we want to live on. And joining me right now, it's a great honor to have Congressman Ro Khanna from California's 17th District to talk about the people's budget, which I think, as a moral document, is the best vision out there for what we're fighting for. Congressman, thank you for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program.
Alex, thank you for having me on.
So it's just, there's a lot in the people's budget. So I just kind of want to throw it to you and let you tell people about it, and you know what's the thinking on putting it out and pushing it so hard as an alternative vision.
Well, the people's budget is a bold, progressive vision of what we think our country should be. And at a time where you have Donald Trump proposing a $5 trillion tax cut, there are so many better ways that we could be using the funding. So we have a $2 trillion plan for investment in infrastructure. That includes the traditional infrastructure of building roads and highways that will create jobs, but also expanding broadband to make sure everyone has broadband in this country. You know, I was at talking to a Native American tribe up in northwest Washington, and they were sharing how when the school kids have to take a test, the mayor, the local leader, sends out a notice that no one can use the internet because that's how much bandwidth they have. So making sure everyone in this country has access to broadband. Then talking about health care and Medicare for all, and moving towards a single payer health care system, making sure that we have free public college. And on the financial side, having a financial transaction tax to deal with all of this speculation, having stronger antitrust provisions, taxing, making sure companies are paying tax on all their overseas earnings. So it's really a vision for what the economy should be to help working families and to create jobs.
And it's also a document and a vision for an America that is broadly supported by the American people. The proposals like moving to a expanded Medicare for all health care delivery system instead of what we've got right now is incredibly popular, not just with Democrats, but with independents and Republicans. And really the only thing that's missing is political will on this. And that's why it's so heartening to see the people's budget and the rallying around it as, you know, a vision saying this is what the people want and we can do this if we put our minds to it. Are there any provisions in the people's budget that you particularly would like to highlight?
Well, I appreciate your highlighting the Medicare for all part of it, because you're absolutely right that Republicans and independents support that as well. I think 68% in one of the polls I've seen. And Donald Trump himself was for a single-payer system in 2000. In his book, America We Deserve, The America We Deserve, he says that the Canadian system is far better than ours, and that it's the only system that would provide more coverage and also less cost. And, of course, recently he praised the Australian system. So having a single-payer system is the only way we're going to reduce costs and also make sure everyone has basic health care. I think the affordability and making public college free, this is Bernie Sanders' bill, where any family making under $125,000 would get to go to a public college for free, so we aren't burdening the next generation with extraordinary debt, is an important part of the budget. The other part that's worth highlighting is making sure that we're investing in apprenticeship programs. Not everyone is going to need or wants a four-year college education, but we know that there are apprenticeship programs and skilled trades programs that would lead to good jobs. And one thing that's not part of the people's budget that I'm working with Sherrod Brown is a expansion of the earned income tax credit. And the idea is very simple. Donald Trump is going to have a $5 trillion, as I mentioned, tax break for corporations and the investor class. Now, if you really believe that's the problem in this country, that corporations aren't making enough money or that somehow the stock market hasn't been doing well enough for those invested in it, then I guess you could go with this plan. But if you believe, as I do, and so many other folks do, that the problem in this country is that working families aren't making enough, that the middle class is feeling squeezed, that people are doing the same jobs often that they were doing for 10 years ago and aren't having any increase in their wages. If anything, they're having their hours reduced or wages decline, then you would want to make sure that the tax relief was geared at them. And that's why Sherrod Brown and I are going to have $1 trillion expansion in the earned income tax credit, which would basically give a raise to the bottom 40% of American earners, most working families, of 20%. And so I think it's the people's budget and the progressive wing of the party. It's a values-based issue. We believe that the fundamental challenge is better jobs and higher wages for working families and the middle class.
It's so true that it is a values argument. I mean, I would love to wonk out on the EITC as one of my favorite pieces of policy, and your proposal is phenomenal and is incredible. It would be so well targeted. The money would get right into the economy. There's everything about that. If Republicans were kind of honest with what they say, they should support the EITC as well. They should support yours and Senator Brown's efforts. It's a really obvious one, but the truth is, it's about values, and their values align with the billionaire class. And so their policies definitely show that. For the people's budget, I just want to let people know they can go to cpcbudget.org. They can check it out there, cpcbudget.org. And I think, Tom's audience are the exact people who really want to and can raise up the people's budget, your efforts on the EITC. The last thing I want to ask you about in the people's budget and maybe outside of it as well is the policies to lower prescription drug prices, which, again, massively supported, not at all a partisan issue. Republicans, Democrats, independents, they are all on the same page that drug prices are too high. And the people's budget includes provisions to lower drug prices. I'm hoping that there could be movement on lowering drug prices, even in this climate, because it's gotten so out of control. Do you think I'm rose-colored glasses on that?
Well, you're right. The polling shows there's overwhelming support for allowing for the importation of drugs from Canada. Or, we make these drugs, we allow other countries to buy generic versions, and then we aren't allowed to import them back. Donald Trump again ran on this, and then the pharmaceuticals got to him. Early on, Peter Welch was one of the best members of Congress from Vermont, and Elijah Cummings actually went to the White House, and they said, Mr. President, you campaigned on doing something about outrageous drug costs. You campaigned on allowing for the importation of drugs. Why don't you support this effort we have? And if he were true to his campaign promises, and if he were true to what people want, he would do something. So the effort is there in Congress. It's been led for years by people like Peter Welch and Elijah Cummings, and I'm hopeful. It's certainly a part of the people's budget, and I'm hopeful that there will be some progress. Although the president has really backed away, and I'm not saying this in a partisan way, just in an objective way. The populist aspects of how he campaigned on Social Security, on prescription drugs, on infrastructure. So far, he's backed away from that, and that's been disappointing. If I could make one final point, one of the attacks on the people's budget is it going to lead to deficit spending? And I would just say two things. One is Stephanie Kelton's work as an economist is very, very thoughtful about how it's just not true that we're Greece and Japan has 240% debt to GDP ratio, and in an environment that's non-inflationary, where there's largely price stability, we ought to have a government spending to help with wages and jobs. And I think the Democrats need to really push back on this argument that somehow we're like Greece, where what happened with Greece was a change of currency, not a problem with their debt to a GDP ratio. And then the final point is my hope. Of course, I'm biased. I'm part of the Progressive Caucus, but I really think the Democrats win if we have a bold counter vision and a spine in standing up for that. And I believe that the People's Budget really should become the platform of the Democratic Party. And there are a lot of us growing in the Progressive Caucus, but for those listeners who go to the document, like the document, maybe can encourage that this is really the agenda that Democrats should run on.
Congressman Ro Khanna from California's 17th District. Thank you so much for joining us on the Thom Hartmann Program. And, you know, I want to just reiterate the last thing you said. For anybody who's listening or watching, go to cpcbudget.org, read it. You'll love what you see there, and then call your members of Congress, call the Democrats, and tell them that this should be the vision. This should be the Democratic vision. This is the vision that is going to align the party with where the people are and can carry us forward, not just in defeating Donald Trump's agenda, but also in building the nation that we want to see. Congressman Ro Khanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alex.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. I want to take all of your calls, so give us a call. We'll be right back.